We are the one, the light in the dark. One heart, one world, one spark. We are the one, together we rise. One dream, one voice, one sky.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Empowered Across the World. And it's our podcast, guys. And I'm just going to have our podcast host just say their name, where they're from, and just one little thing about themselves. And then we are going to bring our guest host, Maria. Um, and she's going to share her story with everyone. Okay, so I'll start. My name's Carol Witt, and I'm the founder and the director for YEA Global. We are in 53 countries, and 37 of them are in Africa. And I teach a thriving mindset. And I'm going to pass it to Susie. Susie.
Hello, my name is Susie Trezo Genelini. I am the CEO and founder of iCode Expo. We are in 22 countries, 18 of them are in Africa, and we are in a very good partnership with YEA. We are thriving. Thank you.
Beautiful. Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Zaccoli, and essentially I am Network Builders Arizona, also manifesting Global Solutions Group and the Global Impact Network to be able to bring self-sustainability to the underserved populations of the world through literature in wellness, environment, and through employment.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh, located in Arizona.
Okay, thank you. And Wumi. And she is all over the globe, guys. She's not just Arizona, she's all over the globe.
Yeah.
Okay, and Wumi, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm one of the directors for YEA. I also work in SQI College of ICT, where we bring technology to everyone. Thank you.
Beautiful. And Renata.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renata Anderson. I'm calling in from Portland, Oregon, and I'm originally from Brazil. I'm the founder of Reborn from the Forest, the CEO of the Impactful Women Network in the US, and I'm leading the Planetary Health Coalition.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. So, Maria, come and share with us your story and inspire us all.
Okay, thank you so much for this invitation, and I'm so honored to be among you lovely women. It just is a pleasure to be here. So about me, well, um, I was born in 1952. I'm a 72-year-old now, a grandmother, and I'm I'm so excited because you can tend to think that things will slow down as you get older, and I think it's up to us whether they do or they don't. But looking back on my life, I've had things that I really wanted to do, and one of the things was empowering women. So I'm really thrilled to be on this platform, and that goes back for a long time. But anyway, here I was born in Bromley in Kent, in England, and I lived quite a lot of my life in a place called Lincoln, and there was very little going on for young people. And at that time, I was learning to play the piano. I had a music teacher, and that was the only activity I had for myself at that point. And there was a situation where my father was made redundant, and we needed to take in lodgers. And our first lodger, Peter, was going off to something called International Friendship League. And I just blossomed in International Friendship League. We had Monopoly in 3 languages in my home. My mother made a huge plate of sandwiches, and that was, amazing. And I think also because I was brought up in a spiritual way, with a spiritual organization, which is worldwide. So I was exposed to many different cultures from very young, and I found this in a very exciting world to be in. Was finding out about what other people felt and thought, and so on. And I think so I got a job at the age of 16 and in a stockbroker's. And but before I went there, I went to a college, and there was a teacher who was he'd had a hard time. He'd been teaching in London, and he'd had some really quite difficult students. And somebody said to me the other day, I have an inquiring mind. And so I was asking a lot of questions, and I was not popular for that. So he said to me, read this book, and it was called Growing Up in New Guinea. And he said, tell me about it when you come, next time. And I did. And I said, this has been fascinating, absolutely incredible, very, very interesting. And I think that book was kind of quite key in what happened to me later. Our spiritual guide came from Indonesia. That's where the connection with Indonesia came from. And when I was, let me think, I was already living in London by then, and I had this strong feeling I should go to Indonesia for Ramadan because it was to keep the fast of Ramadan was a very important thing. Not that you needed to become Muslim or anything, but it was something we could do to do, as it were, fast our passions. In other words, to be able to live from a different energy. And I decided I would do this, and uh, it was kind of a decision of mine. And then I sort of said to my parents, I'm going to do this. And they said, we think it's the best thing you could possibly do. But what they didn't realize was that I would go there for 5 weeks. And then I would send a postcard because there were no mobile phones in those days. I don't know how people really managed, but you didn't really have communication with your family. You didn't. So I said, don't meet the plane, won't be on it. Uh, Letter follows. And I actually came back 2 years later, engaged to what was then my Indonesian fiance. And what had happened was that I was on this plane descending to the islands, and I thought I'd never seen anything so beautiful in my life. I'd never been out east. And the phosphorus around the islands was just the most beautiful ring of beautiful kind of greeny turquoise light that we could see from the plane. And I started crying because it was like I was coming home. It was really strange. I'd never been there in my life. But by the time I landed, the banana trees that had these really kind of quite angular leaves had become almost second nature. It was like I'd never been anywhere else. So that was a very important part of my journey. And in order to stay there, I had to find a job. And so I started teaching English to someone, a government employee's nephew, actually, through a friend who was already in a UN project there. And when they heard that I was doing that, they said, "Oh, we need you to teach English." So there was a mission coming over to look at what was next for that UN project, and they decided, yes, this was something was needed. And in the meantime, I'd started to learn to speak Indonesian because that was important to me. If you're going to be in a country, you're not just there as a Brit to be there. You're going to, for me, it's very important to become part of where I am. And so that was already sort of starting to happen. And they said, yes, we'll allow you to leave the country and come in as an international civil servant, which is what I did. And it was a project concentrating on diversifying from traditional products. And I was able to use my Indonesian for a leather exporters conference at one point. And the person who asked me to translate said he never thought I had that level of language, but it was like I became a conduit almost. They would ask questions and I would translate, and then the expert was able to give the answers. And Sorry, I forgot to turn my my computer on. And so I had many different experiences within that. There was also the ILO, the International Labour Organization, was setting up the first design center for Indonesia. And because of my English and everything, I was roped in with the translation. And it was quite interesting because the person who had written the document said, I'm not surprised you didn't understand what I was trying to say, because I thought of it in Dutch and then I translated it in, I think it was Javanese, and then into English. So by the time you've done all those translations, it's quite an interesting mix when you get to the English. So we had quite something to sort out, and it was a great privilege, to be part of that. And I saw for myself the culture. And I just want to explain one event that happened. They were going to turn the whole of the office on one floor into a bazaar kind of thing. And in this country, it probably would have taken months to have an organizational and all the rest of it. And they did it within like 2.5 hours. And what it was, they had all the people who would be needed to do the shifting of everything and all the rest of it. They got them sorted first. And then, so it wasn't a top-down approach. It was very much a bottom-up approach, which was very, very inspiring. And within hours, it was completely transformed. And I was so impressed. And at a later stage, it's called Gotong Royong. And at a later stage, I was able, when a second project I was in was based in Indonesia and then was going to be transferred to the Philippines. And my local staff, I was an admin assistant and acting project coordinator for 6 months during that time. But when the news came through to the local staff that the project was going to be moved, oh my goodness, it was like, really desperate depression. So I said to them, look, I said, I can't do anything about the move, but what we're going to do is this. We're going to use your culture to help each of you to find a job before you go. So the previous person had really kept them in boxes, right? You can do international phone calls, you can do this, you can do that. So I said, each of you is going to teach the others everything you know. So we had such a different atmosphere came into that place. There was joy, there was interest, there was, I let them go for interviews to find out what they were lacking. And the thing that they were lacking was telex. Now, it just tells you how old I am because probably people can't even remember telex much. I don't know anyone here. But yeah, okay. And you had to do the ticker tape and all of that. And so what happened was that they didn't have telex because it was handled by the UNDP office, the United Nations Development Programme office handled all of that side for our project. So I said, right. So I went to the UNDP office and I went on almost bended knee to one of the local staff. And I said, my secretaries need telex for the next job that they're going to do. And bless him, he did actually teach them. And every one of them got jobs before I left Jakarta. Now, that was nothing to do with the UN, that was me. And it's one of my proudest achievements. So that was sort of that era. And then we can go to the end of the project. That was a 2-year project. And I came back from the Philippines and things were a little bit rocky in my marriage by then. And however, I got pregnant and the doctor said, have you got family in England? And I said, yes. And I think he knew a little bit more than I did at that point, but he wasn't letting on. And he said, so you must have this baby in England. So I got in touch with my mother. And by this point, I am not putting on any weight. Although I'm pregnant, I'm not actually putting on any weight. So I'm a bit concerned about that. I said, is that okay? Well, it won't be okay if it keeps going. And I had morning sickness all day for about 3 months. So it was pretty tough. So when I came back to this country, I went to the doctor clearly, and they said, we're sending you for a scan. Right, okay. There's the first head. I beg your pardon. There's the second. What? There's the third. Oh my goodness. Are they all separate? I said that was the most important question for me.
Wow.
We think there's a fourth. I said, stop counting. That's enough. That's quite enough. That's it. And they said, oh, you're getting hotter by the minute. I said, well, wouldn't you if somebody was counting babies in your tummy? Don't you think you might feel something similar? Anyway, I clearly was taken into hospital. It became a bit of a curiosity, and they'd say things like, we better hide you in the library because everybody will want to have a feel and see if they can find the head. No, we're not letting them do that. But it was the consultant who was a little less careful in the other hospital that I was taken to. And when you're having triplets, which it wasn't forever, but it was triplets. And my mother, bless her, was just amazing. She said, I said, I've got news for you, Mum. And she said, twins? I said, times two, Mum. Wonderful, 4 babies. Well, nobody else was actually thinking that was quite so wonderful at that point. And however, they were duly born in the hospital in London. And when I went back to the hospital nearer my home, the nurse came in and she said, can I help you with your babies? I said, oh, no, 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 no. They're all mine. I'm the mother of all of them. And I asked her to leave the room. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to give my love to each of these children, each of these babies as much as I could, each one. And there was not to be any, favoritism or anything like that. I was just going to be when she came back at 2 o'clock in the morning, she said, can I help you with your babies? I said, I am shattered. I'm so exhausted. Yes, please. And but of course, you can't really feed 3 babies yourself. You can't. It's too much. At one point, I was breastfeeding because that was best, and I was going to do the absolute best I could for them. Of course, I had to go back and read the bottle feeding section. But anyway, it was quite amusing because I said to the sister one day, you know what? I've just worked out that when I have a meal, when do I get the nourishment? Because if it's all going into the babies one by one, when do I get nourished? And she said, if you hadn't said that, we were going to tell you, you can't do that. You're going to have to feed one at one feed and one at another. So it was hard. I had to do a lot of letting go. Maybe that's where my letting go comes from, that I can actually let things go. And I had to let go in a big way because, as I've just said, I had triplets. I had a boy and 2 wonderful girls. And but it was not always to be my story to have triplets. Well, I have triplets because that's what I had. That's what I gave birth to, was triplets. But my son died when he was 12 in a complete freak accident. And nobody else involved got his bag caught round his neck as he got over the wall at the back of our house. And he left me a message the day after. He was quite a spiritual lad, really. He left me a message, now you'll listen. Oh my goodness, listen to what? I started listening to alternative education, alternative health, alternative everything. Now, in the meantime, actually before that, I need to go back a little bit, because in 1992, I was involved with our spiritual organization, and they were sending a delegation to Rio de Janeiro for the Earth Summit. Well, they'd picked who they were going to send, and I was reading a book. Now, it was called Mystic Places, and I've still got the book, but it's not the same as what I saw. I opened the book, And all of you who are connected with Mother Earth are going to really be interested in this bit, because there was a picture of Mother Earth, in other words, the Earth, on the right-hand side page. And there was a line running through, and it was red. And as I looked, it became liquid. And it was like Mother Earth was bleeding. And I was like Mother Earth, and I was bleeding, and I needed to go to Rio. Now, my children had just the previous day, I think, um, been invited to go and hold up a spellathon. I don't know if you know what a spellathon is. It's like you're spelling a word, but because it was for people who were dyslexic, and the headmistress said, well, you can't take your children to London. Now, in those days, you could actually argue. Now you wouldn't be allowed to, but I argued and I said, I'm a single mother with triplets. Who gets a fully paid, all expenses paid trip to London for yourself and your triplets to go to London? I'm taking them to London because that will give them more education that day than what they will miss in the day. She wasn't happy, but I took them. And it was an incredible day because the girls wanted to go to the toy shop, but I'm a single mother with triplets, right? And I haven't got money to pay in a toy shop. So I said to my son, where do you want to go? Natural History Museum. Right, that's where we're going. So underneath where the museums are is like a walkway. And there were all these boys with placards saying homeless and hungry. And after the 14th one, I think, I spoke to one of them and I said, why are you homeless and hungry? And he said, because I've got a new job and, mum and dad don't want me to come back late and all the rest of it. And I gave him 20 pence piece for a phone call. My daughter had a dream. Because you helped a man in the street, you got £1,000. I went to the bank the following day. The bank teller was a new teller. She'd never been there before. And I believe to this day that she was an angel. I do. Because she said, I know I can't do anything about what's going on in the world, but I feel you can, and I'm going to help you. So she helped me get the loan for £1,000, and off I went to Rio. My goodness. And the first night was electric because all the religions of the earth were asking forgiveness of Mother Earth. And that was powerful. And at the end of it, we held hands, all the people who were there in the Global Forum. And I have to explain, the Global Forum was where the non-government organizations were. The government part was meeting in another part of Rio, and they were meeting with the big companies, the international companies and all of that, and making deals. Yeah. But on our side, it was the Global Forum. And it was powerful. We held hands, we sang, we didn't want to go home. We didn't want to go back to where we were living. We were there till 5 o'clock in the morning, just being together. And then eventually people looked at each other and said, oh gosh, we better go because we've got a meeting or whatever. And we broke up. But it was amazing. It was quite incredible. And I had an experience with my mother. She said, I feel that this experience is going to be important for you later in life. And so she was very positive and she looked after the children with my father for nearly 3 weeks while I went off. And they were, I don't know, 7, I think, at that point. And it was an amazing experience for this mother that was always, feeding, changing, and doing everything. Suddenly, I was back in the global environment. Now, you'll be really fascinated to hear. Guess I met one of your heroes from Africa, from Kenya. I met Warangiri. I was in a group of women similar to this. I was in a group of women at the Earth Summit discussing the things that were common to all of us across the world. And it was a totally inspiring meeting. I think it was chaired by Warangiri. So when I started connecting with Africa, I was able to say, hey, I've got this experience and it makes me feel close to all of you. It does, especially in YEA Africa, right? And so that was like a really important thing for me. And my son was very proud of me. My girls were not so interested, but my son was very proud of me. And just before I went, there was a program with the Kogi. Now, I don't know if you've heard of the Kogi, but they are an indigenous group, and they explained that they kept their children underground for 9 years till their ninth birthday, so that they would understand how Mother Earth is governed, by all the creatures under the earth. And they said they had never spoken out before. Now, I noticed that they're not speaking out now, but I mean, maybe I'm speaking for them, that at that point they were very, very worried about Mother Earth. And that was 92. And I had the privilege of being at the permaculture convergence that Christy ran in Kenya. And I actually shared about the Earth Summit at that meeting. And I'm blessed because, in these years that I've been allowed or inspired or whatever it is to have really extraordinary experiences during bringing up triplets. You might think, oh, she must have been completely bedded down and sort of not able to go anywhere. But I had inspiring and inspired parents. And my father said this. He said, "Never ever buy me a rocking chair," which I love, which is going in my book, because it gave them a new lease of life. And they were actually planning to go and be with my sister in Australia when I arrived back pregnant with my triplets, and they stayed in England to help me, which was a difficult thing for my sister. And I want to acknowledge her that, on this program, that she really did have a tough time when she first went out and with not having them there. But they did go out and visit. Absolutely, they did. But I really, really appreciate her. And I'm acknowledging her for, getting through that, because it was hard. If sister comes back, and really bit of a fly in the ointment. Oh my goodness, But at this point, I want to really acknowledge Landmark, because when my husband died, which was 5 years ago, my second husband, having remarried, yes, because when my son died, I had just remarried 1 month into a new relationship, into a new marriage, although we'd been together a little while, but nonetheless, it was a new marriage, and it was a tough thing. Oh, and when I got married, I said, "Sleep well, darling, as you do to your children. You don't expect this. I will, now you're married." What? 12-year-old boy says to his mother, "I will, now you're married." That was interesting. So anyway, I know he had a role, and one day I'll know more on the other side. So anyway, retracing, where was I? Yes, with mum and dad. Yes. So what I want to say is, brothers and sisters, I really feel brothers and sisters in this world. I want to address our sisters, our women who are listening to this. Really, my mother shared something. I wrote it down. I want to say this. Never look back at the younger woman that you were and throw rocks from where you are now. Never ever do that. That was one of the greatest pieces of advice my mother gave me. And the other thing was that when there would be grey clouds, maybe even rain, and I said, "Mum, why are you putting the clothes out?" She'd say, "There's a little bit of blue sky up there. And I want you to think of that. There is a little bit of blue sky up there. So when things are going difficult, just remember that there's that little bit of blue skies coming around the corner for you."
Mm.
And it's helped me enormously. And I've been able
Mm.
to share with others when they were struggling. And one person actually calls me her little bit of blue sky. And so I shall be sure to send this to her. But this program here is where my heart is, with all of you women. You are amazing. And I particularly want to acknowledge and pay tribute to lots of African women and Indigenous women and those who are really, drawing water from the well, not a well, they're drawing it from maybe Lake Victoria where it's not potable. In other words, you wouldn't be able to drink it really. And they take hours and hours to go there, and the children as well. And I'm working to make that a different story around Lake Victoria. That is what I am about. And what I realize is that Lake Victoria, the waters go into other rivers. Those other rivers go into the Nile. That Nile goes into the Mediterranean. So it's actually going to make a difference, a big difference. And I really am privileged through Carol. I'm going to acknowledge you at this moment because if I wasn't in YEA, I wouldn't have this opportunity. If I hadn't done Landmark, I'm going to acknowledge my dear friend, Diane, at this point. If she hadn't told me about Landmark, I would have been the woman that was taking a walk with a piece of paper in her pocket with her name and address on it. This is after I lost my husband after caring for him for 16 years. I didn't know who I was anymore in a way. And what I got was a new lease of life, that actually there is life for me, that I can look back to my UN background, that some said, but it was in the past, it doesn't mean anything now, and then be told, actually, it's the most important thing you've done. Apart from, of course, bringing up my children and my, triplets as a single mum, many stories. Yeah, many stories about that.
Beautiful.
But,
beautiful.
you know,
Absolutely beautiful.
here we are.
I told you, you have a life that will inspire so many because you dealt with some tough things and you've come back and you've come back stronger because of it, so much stronger. And I'm just going to say this. I'm in awe of you. You are 72 and your life is so full. You're not retiring. You're not going to the rocking chair. Your life is so full. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So I have a question for you. Inside of all your life, 72 years, there are young women here that are listening and gleaning from the older women. What could you say to them? The biggest thing that you have learned in all of your years, your life, what could you say to them to support them to believe in themselves?
Okay, so have the courage to express yourself in whichever way you can. Now, I'm speaking to women I know globally here. So I know that in some countries it's hard. So maybe you could start writing poetry because that really helped me, really, really helped me to put my feelings down on the page when I couldn't share them with anyone else. Maybe you can do a picture. Maybe you can learn to paint. Maybe you can draw. Maybe you can, you know, how, what else can you do? Um, listen to, go on, Carol.
Come here and be a guest and share your life
Absolutely.
and share your story.
Absolutely. Come on this podcast. Listen to the podcast. Listen to these women. We're not special. We're women. We come together as women to support and empower each other. We all have tough things in our lives, and we all have experiences that teach us many things. And we can, share those things. I know from the women that I'm present with here on this podcast now that each one of them has been through some tough things too. I want to acknowledge all of you, my sisters, here right now. I know that Carol, you went through a very tough time and you lost somebody very special and you revamped your life And, you know, it's like there's a reason why things happen. I really do believe that we come down here to this earth to grow, to learn, to go through tough things. I am a woman of faith. I have had a very big faith journey, which is another book which will be written. And um, without God in my life would not be the way it is. Without a faith, I don't know how people manage without faith. I really, really don't. I have had a faith since I was a little girl, but it's been tested, good and true. And I have had a journey to find the religion that I'm in. I'm in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I know it's the restored church on the earth, and that Jesus Christ is with us when we're doing things that we do. He is absolutely with us. I see him walking among those children, those orphans, those all of you who are doing such incredible work. I see him walking with the people who are harvesting. And Susie, you've written an inspiring song about harvesting, and my heart is full with that because it is so, passionate and beautiful, and we need to be closer to Mother Earth, all of us. I'm involved in something called Abbots in Transition, and in fact I need to tell them what I'm really up to, because I haven't really been involved on a local level because I've been with all of you. But what I see is that I can bring the global level to them again that way, and the local level to the global level. I see myself as that kind of person in this situation. I'm not going to eat humble pie and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, because I have a role. And I think we can all carve out that's right for us.
Beautiful. We've got Renata. She has a question for you.
Please, Renata.
Hi, Maria. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story. It's very inspiring. And I'm curious to know what you think about you describe it so beautiful, the Mother Earth and your visit to Rio and in 1992.
92. Yeah.
92. And it's been 34 years from that date. And how do you describe Mother Earth today? How do you see that? And yeah.
She's struggling. I've written a poem about it, about the cyanide, about, I also didn't mention, but I will now, the connection I have with Indigenous people in Australia, Aboriginal people. My own father disappeared in the bush behind my sister's house and wasn't found for 6 weeks. That was after my parents emigrated in their 80s. So we seem to be, I think my strain of the family, we seem to be very adventurous. And I met somebody who's actually third cousin once removed. We were talking just I think, no, 2 days ago. Very exciting to realize that I have that trait very strongly in myself from that side of the family, which was amazing. And what I will say about that is that my father gave me the next kind of 50 years of my life in a way, because with the Aboriginal man of having done the sketch, I actually traveled to Australia, and I was funded partially by other people. And it wasn't just about going to see my mother. I knew there was something beyond it, and there certainly is. And which is why I'm now in a position to be able to connect with Indigenous people and have that kind of narrative in my story, which I am privileged to have. So I can connect you, Renata, with the people in Australia. It's like I feel Heavenly Father, that's who I call God, because I really feel that He's my Father, the perfect Father that maybe some of us didn't have. Yeah. And so we have a perfect Father in heaven, and He is in charge, and He guides us. we have to be willing also to be used by him, to be instruments in his hands. And I really feel that in the way that I've been introduced as Lamont, then YEA, and now this podcast and reaching across to women all over the world. And probably there are men too, and there'll be children who will listen to this because mums will be doing things and they'll put it on while they're hoovering and they'll go, "What's this? Who are these people?" And, they'll be interested too. And so we can't start too early with the young women, with the young girls, especially, where they're not valued, where they don't feel valued. We need to really make that absolutely paramount, that they are so important, that they are the key to their society, to their community.
Yeah.
Truly,
Okay.
truly.
My dear, Wumi has a question, and then
Please,
we
Wumi.
have to end.
Of
And I
course.
wanted to make sure Jackie got to ask you a question. Go ahead, Wumi.
Please.
Yes, thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your story. You said you were in the UN, and then when you got back, you had your babies. Okay, so for every woman out there who, you know what pregnancy does to women, especially if you're a career woman, if you're a business woman, it somehow make you feel some type of way, especially when there are others in the organization who are going ahead of you, that 1 year or 2 years and all of that. So what do you want to say to women who, yes, you love your children, you love your baby, but how do you manage it with your career or your business or whatever it is you do that you feel, okay, you should have attained a better height or a higher height afterwards?
What I would say is, of course, you need to nurture your children, but not to forget yourself, that you can be building yourself while you're looking after your children, and also when you're building self-reliance in them, you're building them for their future. So if you continue to do everything for them, for example, I know mothers that will take PE kits that have been forgotten, they will drive them to the school because they've been forgotten. But children need to learn. They need to learn that they have to be responsible and take things. And, they also have to face consequences a little bit because mum's not always going to be there. There was one of the things in Landmark was, your mama's not going to come and rescue you. We had to learn that. So thank you for that. And it's every woman's journey is going to be different, of course. Yeah. But yeah, that was a difficult time for me
All
after
right.
my son died. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
Jackie, do you have a question for her? Do you have a comment before we end?
I'll make it real fast.
Okay.
I know that a lot of what you're doing right now is concerning the Lake Victoria. And I know that you're beginning to see the power of the women that are about us. And I want to know specifically, I know you can't do it in 2 minutes, but I know your plans are also wrapped around some other leaders in that group. However, can you envision, and I literally mean that word, can you envision what the women on this screen can do to empower that group?
Oh, that's powerful. Thank you. I think it would be really great if we could have maybe a meeting together, to really discuss about the women's situation around there. And I also want to acknowledge Walter because he's so much and you're like a father figure for the children, but he's also, really going for it to make a huge difference in that area. And he's leaving no stone unturned. So, he's a very, very important part of this project. And again, we met through YEA. So again, it comes back to Carol. Carol, you've been the birthing mother for so many projects, I'm sure. Really, really acknowledge you.
Thank you. Thank you, my
Beautiful.
dear. And it all is inside of collaborating. Guys,
Yeah.
collaborate with one another, collaborate. That's all I can say. I want it to be my middle name, collaboration.
Mine too.
And Jackie is somebody that really, really supports collaboration, guys. So, and all of us do in here now, we're all collaborating with one another in so many different directions. And our efforts together can have us go so much further. So I love, Maria, that you want to kind of put us together and talk about and see what more we can do besides having the women's empowerment program that we are going to be offering January 28th, guys. We are going to do a women's empowerment program January 28th. It's the start of it. So, and this was the introduction in getting it going and the door open. Okay. So, and Susie had a question for you and we have to end. Go ahead, Susie.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Cara. I'll be very quick. You shared about Mother Nature. We are actually working on a program now that is all about bringing youth back to the farmland. But we encounter some difficulties because youth actually they don't want to go back to the farmland. What advice can you give us in the way we can actually? I try to bring out a podcast about the harvest heroes, to actually tell the stories of the farmers and act to motivate the youth to come back to the farmland. Can you give us any tips or ideas we can do to work on really healing Mother Nature, because we need the youth on board? Thank you so much.
Wow, that's a big question, isn't it? So I think it's about acknowledgement is very important. Acknowledgement is paramount, you know, because they are part of the future of Mother Earth. They totally are. And if they can see themselves in that kind of bigger picture, not just we're just doing this, but we are actually changing how our nutrition is going to be from you know, they are playing a very, very important role. And I think if we as women were to sing them up, basically, you know, and really have our young heroes. And that's something I want to do. I want to make Young Heroes of the World is a series I want to do, and I want to feature young heroes and what they're about and what the difference is that they're making. So we need to talk.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
remember, I have a Facebook on that.
Yeah.
Following my heroes.
Oh my God.
So that would be a start if you wanted to do that.
Perfect, please.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
totally love that. I totally love that. And also too, Susie, just inside of them getting that. One of the stories that I'm going to share really quickly is one of my students, he put himself through college. He has a master's in business administration by growing chickens. That's what he did. So you could be a farmer and get back to your roots and really support our planet and build from that, to go to college and get a good education and do whatever it is you want to do. You might not want to be a farmer for all your life, but it will support you to get where you want to go. Plus, you'll be saving the planet. So, it's a beautiful thing. I hope that, thank you so much for another amazing podcast and episode with Maria. And Maria, wow, you're going to inspire many people today and later, because we're going to share this everywhere. Please, guys, if you love this episode, please comment, please share it. Please share it everywhere so everybody gets to see it. And please subscribe so that we get this out to so many more people. Okay. And I just want to thank everyone. And guys, please pray for Tampa Bay. I live right where the hurricane is supposed to hit. Please pray for us. We don't need more destruction in this area. We just had a hurricane 2 weeks ago that destroyed all of our beaches. So please keep us in your prayers. I love you guys. Thank you. And we will be back with another episode soon, Friday. Bye, everyone.
When we stand as one, there's no peace and